And may I now invite Mr. Manmeet Nair, CEO Arsym, and Mr. Devkant Payasi, COO Arsym, to come on stage and put some light on the vision of Race Bharat Forum.
Yeah, can we have one more mic here? So firstly, very good morning, and thank you for making it. I know it was very difficult, last 4 days being holiday, and then leaving your work and coming to this place. But we are humbled and we are glad that you made for this occasion. So we'll take this opportunity to firstly give you a brief on how this concept of Race Bharat actually came. So me and Manmeet actually, just to give you a glimpse of how we actually came together. So we both, about 2 years back, we started working for Payback, and it is there that we realized that we have a lot more in common than what we were doing there. And it was highly desired that we come out from there and do something together. So meanwhile, Manmeet actually moved on to Canada, and I continued with MX. And the deliberation went on for about 1.5 years to 2 years actually. And this is the day for which Manmeet, you and me actually worked together. And with the blessing of all of you, I'm sure we will succeed in what we aim for. So let's go ahead with the presentation then, Manmeet.
Yeah, thank you so much for setting up the context. And a very warm welcome to everyone here. It is a very thrilling feeling to have such veterans like Ms. Jain, Manish Goyal, very senior veterans from fraternity, supporting such initiative and blessing us at the initiation of such an important cause which is close to our heart. Just to give a background and the context, some things are destined to be, and God makes sure that you get support from every sphere to drive it. It's nothing that we are doing, it's just with the will and wish of God we are able to do something meaningful for inclusive growth of India. So Mr. Payasi, Devkant, my best friend, so he is from a Navy background. He served 15 years in Navy, sailing across different shores, oceans, shores, and myself, so I've hopped across almost every country in the world and have different stints. And we had a common rendezvous point back in India for a small period, working together in a company, and that's where we decided, okay, now let's kick off something which is close to our heart and do something meaningful. And that's where we started talking to Saigal Foundation, we started talking to TrustFair, and this whole process started evolving about trying to bring something innovative to India, trying to bring something which is transformational for India, eventually bringing out benefits to the masses. There is immense digital divide that the country is currently facing. There is a face of India which is the corporate face. There is a face of India which is imperialist. There is a face of India which moves in sedans. But there is a face of India when I was coming today, right before the event, I could see people lying on the floors, on the streets, homeless, foodless. And it pains to see all that. It really pains to see all that. We as Bharat, and this name, Bharat has been very categorically taken. A lot of initiatives these days are moving ahead in terms of Digital India and Make in India initiative by Honorable Government of India. But Bharat, I believe we have to drive initiatives for inclusive growth which should reach to the remote part of the country, which should definitely reach to the needy people, and we all have to work together selflessly to be able to contribute.
Yeah. So when we say Bharat, actually what we mean is inclusivity. So it's not about rural, it's not about urban, but it's about the wholesomeness. So India actually is a global economic power, but there are a lot of contradictions within. So on one hand, you would have seen one of the very common problem is that everyone keeps saying we are not able to hire good talent. At the same time, there are a lot of people who are on the street, right, looking for good jobs. So both the contradiction exists. There are people who are looking for a good job and there are companies looking for good people, but there is somewhere where there is a gap. India will have 25% shortage of engineers by 2021. At the same time, the working population would be growing. So somewhere there is a contradiction, right? The working age, the population which is available for work is growing at a healthy rate, which will peak by 2021. But there are indications that by 2025, you will face almost about 25% of shortage of engineers. The GDP is increasing, right? Yeah. And at the same time, the investment on the research is down. Although a lot of research work is happening in India, quality research work, which is being reported and shared across international forum, but the number of research happening is very less. So there are a lot of contradictions which we see, which are here.
Typically, I think in the field of CSR also, which has come up as a mandate recently, it's very proud feeling to say that India is the first country to adopt CSR as a legislation. So which is a very proud mandate that a country has taken. But as a survey, not even 18% of the company are actually complying with it. So which is again, kind of a panoramic view of something alarming about how things are happening at the grassroots level. So there is definitely a gap about, so the vision of the country is perfect, the support from the government is perfect, infrastructure setup is perfect. It is us who have to drive the change management. And we'll have to adopt to the new processes and practices to be able to bring the larger benefits to the country. So I'll actually, before going to the slide on Arsym, so I'll just take a minute to talk more about, this particular slide on the contradictions. So from contradiction perspective on education, as Devkant rightly picked up, there's a shortage of employable skills. There's a lot of initiatives being driven in skill development in the country today. So we personally want to drive two large initiatives. So one is so we'll talk about it a bit later, but yeah, we'll drive Yo Scientist as one project for the primary school, education betterment. And second, we'll drive Yieldopedia for, senior scholars, PhD researchers, even the analyst community. So what we want to do is people to start thinking. So even from IIMs, Bangalore, without any prejudice to the fraternity where we belong to, even at IIMs or even at SPJN or these schools where we graduated, as soon as we get the project, the first thing we do is start Googling. The first thing we start doing Googling. The core innovation which is required is completely gone. Search has been a profound enabler, but it has limited our innovation. I humbly want to, both of us as Arsym humbly want to enhance that factor, which was the paradigm of the intelligence for India on the science side, science and technology side. So these two projects are going to witness a lot of new projects coming in for school kids, a lot of new research opportunities coming in for scholars, and we'll try to bridge the gap through funding. We'll also try to bring in innovative ideas from corporate to address this gap. So I think Mr. Nair had already briefed a bit about Arsym. So and by and large, it's been reinforced many times about our vision for an inclusive growth of India, and basic pillars of our growth would be re-engineering, analytics, CSR, and education.
Yeah, so I'm sure you would have got the acronym for RACE by now, but otherwise this is re-engineering, and then you have analytics, CSR, and then the education.
So why these four pillars particularly? You must be thinking, why is this jargon created? It's not a spontaneous call. It has a lot of thought behind it. And if you see how India has to grow, is primarily on the process, how you would re-engineer the government processes, how you would re-engineer the existing corporate processes, those are going on, and specifically on the e-governance side. So that's the reason we feel from a consulting perspective, re-engineering is going to be the pillar for the transformation of India. Again, with the size of India as a population, with the number of SMBs playing in this country, the number of businesses in this country is, as a conglomerate, is more than the overall businesses in the world, actually. So analytics is going to give you a deep dive in a better understanding of the demographics we are talking about. Analytics will give us a better understanding about what has to be pitched, who knows whom, and that's why our relationship management or relationship analytics tool with TrustFair is going to be a great problem solver for a lot of problems which corporate SMBs as well as government is facing today. And we are actually witnessing a very promising response from people that we are talking to.
So Raise Bharat is a platform created by Arsym for uniting the urban and rural Bharat. Arsym's vision is to create a forum where corporate, NGOs, educationalists and researchers will be coming together to muzzle the digital divide and build a sustainable uniform society. I think there's a lot of thing which already has been dwelled upon this subject. So we are also here to launch Trust Fair. So this is the first time I think through Arsym, the lot of Trust Fair solutions would be pushed into the market, and there's a lot of demand coming from the market for such kind of products.
So I'll just give we have Trust Fair CEO Mr. Manish Goyal present here. So he'll be doing a very focused session on Trust Fair. I'll just give a small feeler or teaser about what this whole technology is all about. So India as a country with such a huge population, the major strength that we have is the social capital. We've talked a lot about intellectual capital. We've talked a lot about financial capital of the country. But nobody is trying to actually exploit the social capital that is inherent, the relationships that are inherent. And so this tool would help us understand who we know within the country, who we know across the country, who we know across borders and within the organizations, to be able to associate better for business purposes. So that's the pioneering technology, the only technology in the world which we are launching, and India is the most promising market for that.
And yeah, and just to correct, till now we were saying big data, but yesterday I realized post discussion with Manish, there's this fast data and not the big data.
Yeah, so it's gone even a step further.
Yeah, even a step further.
Yeah.
So on CSR, actually I have been associated with CSR initiative for last 4 years. Immediately after moving on from Navy, the first thing which I started doing was running a trust. So the Satrys is a trust wherein I am a trustee, and it is doing amazing plantation work in South. It has already done a lot of work in South. And in North, we have recently moved. So we in fact have a project which is lined up near Manesar, where we intend to plant and create a jungle in 250 acres of land. So on CSR, if you see, there are 5 participants, and they all are working in silos. So if we in Arsym can actually unite them and bring some synergy into all of the efforts which otherwise are happening in silo, I am sure a lot of work in the field of sustainability would be very easily accepted from all corners. So there are corporates, there are NGOs, there is media, and there are volunteers, and then lastly we have audits. Right? So if we can club all these together and knit it together and present it to all these participants as one single solution, then I'm sure that a lot of work which currently happening in CSR field but not getting up to the last mile will reach to the last mile. We'll achieve a lot of success, and Arsym intends to put a lot of effort on CSR consulting and making sure that these pieces which otherwise are working in silos to be knitted together.
I think both of us coming from process excellence backgrounds, and myself had experience in e-governance, and Devkant as a black belt in project management. So driving these projects are these projects are humongous. Lot of scale to be contributed and huge amount of money is involved. So audits are particularly very relevant, and compliances with these norms have to be mandated. So I think a structured approach of approaching the NGO projects is pivotal for driving the benefits to the rural India. So we pledge ourselves to this initiative.
Yeah. So the next in line, I think Manmeet just dwelled upon initially was Yo Scientist. I'm not sure if how many of you would have seen science fair. Science fair, you would see kids very excited on that day. Previous 3 days from the science fair are Herculean task for the parents. right? Because the items which are required for creating the project is just not available. Right? You will have to take a lot of effort to find those stuff. Firstly, find the relevant project, and then find the relevant stuff, and then sit with your kid and make it, right? It's such a Herculean task. But from our point of view, science affair should be a day-to-day affair. It should not be one day that the child is so excited, experimenting with the science. We intend to create an environment wherein these 1,000+ science model which can explain science far better, science in action, would be delivered to students so that students remain excited towards the subject. So our aim, in fact, this within a period of a month or 1.5 months period, we will have a solution towards this, wherein this could be something similar to the e-com model, wherein we will have more than 1,000+ model. We also will have tie-up with schools, wherein we will create a lot of clubs, the robotics club or various science clubs, which will do a lot of these exciting stuff in school and keep kids engaged in the education, and make it not as boring as otherwise it is.
Surprisingly, there are more than 12,000 projects which can be taken up by students for innovating stuff, with I guess around 15 crore students studying in government school alone. So the probability of exposing new science and technology and innovative ideas and projects to these kids would actually be the foundation of an innovative India going forward. So this last project which we want to just brief about is Yieldlopedia, and we'll like to have an audience view around this. This is something which is and especially with people like Manish here, a lot of other senior analysts, people from media and corporates are around, even academicians are here. So we wanted to create a platform wherein research is actually collaborated between all the three. What happens, say, even if you've done a project, top of line project, even in the postgraduate study at any of the top institutions, once the project is being done, the project goes as a dump in the file and nobody cares about it anymore. At the same time, there are a lot of case studies and projects which are being done in the corporate, and the academia or the students have very little access to these kind of things. Last but not the least, I think Gartners of the world, Forresters of the world, which are analysts who publish reports. One report is available at like $10,000, while they give it as a syndicated price to the corporate at 100K package to everyone. So eventually, there is a lot of price differentiation on research, and availability of research to everyone is not there. So this is a big gap, a need which has to be addressed, and the next generation, the researchers especially, the PhDs or the MEMTechs or MBAs who are doing research, they should have an end-to-end understanding, right from the theoretical to a real-time project implementation, and further to re-engineering the whole processes. So Arsym wants to build, or BHARAT wants to build a platform or a knowledge-sharing platform called Yieldlopedia, wherein everybody has to collaborate, and there would be new pricing models can be further syndicated down, so that the research is available to larger people at a larger interest. So any take on from the team here, any suggestions from the team here? Do you feel